Hello students, Mr. John here. Welcome to Chapter 6, Lesson 1, Part 1. The lesson was so big I had to break it into two so we could cover it all in enough detail to know what the heck was going on. We're in it now. That's probably what George Washington was thinking as he went to bed the night after arriving in Boston. The Patriots had already had some major engagements. Many of the colonists thought that the British would just give up after a few battles. I think they were being optimistic. Now, the British thought the same. They thought that after a few battles, all the Patriots would just give up and go home. I think they were also being optimistic. Let's start our day today by breaking down the two sides of this conflict, ESPN style, on the very next page. Let's take a look. All right. The British edge. Now, the British seemed to have the edge in this conflict from the get-go. They had the most powerful navy in the world, a well-disciplined army, and the wealth that came along with, well, having your very own empire. There was also an 8 million strong population in Britain. The colonies had a population of a comparably small 2.5 million. On top of that, most of their military was untrained militias, and the navy was pretty much non-existent, almost non-existent. Of that 2.5 million population, not all of the colonists even supported the war for independence. Some, like the Quakers, were pacifists. Others were loyalists, also known as Tories. It is estimated that between 1 in 5 and 1 in 3 colonists remained loyal to the crown. Some depended on Britain to make a living. Others did not think that the grievances of the colonies were worth fighting over. In general, there were more Tories, more loyalists in the South, and more Patriots in the North, which could make it, kind of awkward at family dinners. Some families and communities were a mix of loyalists and Tories, or loyalists and Patriots, and they were fighting each other to the death at times. There were times where loyalists or Patriots would be run out of town or even killed for what they thought. It can be noted that as the war raged on, some loyalists did switch to the Patriot cause, and we'll learn about that, particularly in the South. Let's talk about some of the things that the Patriots had going for them. So the Patriots did have some advantages. For one, Tom Brady had the football slightly underinflated to give him a better grip. Just kidding. Wrong Patriots. The colonial Patriots had the home field advantage. They knew the land. They did not have to travel across an ocean to get to the battlefield. Long supply lines take time and cost a lot of money for the British. The Patriots don't have to deal with that. They're already at home. There's also the question of motivation. A colonial fighter had enlisted or volunteered for a cause for which they genuinely believed. They were at times literally defending their homes and family from attack. The way a man fights when he's cornered or his family is under attack is much different than a man that is fighting for a paycheck like a British regular would have been, or even their Hessian auxiliaries. The colonials also had a man with a plan, the master of disaster, the commander of the Continental Army, George Washington. Now that I've got that out of the way, we could move on. It's pretty sweet. Now, after the Declaration of Independence was signed, the Continental Congress served as the colonial government. The problem was the colonies didn't really want to cede any power to a national government. After all, they had just broken away from the Parliament. So they didn't want to break away from one governing body just to give power to a new governing body. As a result, the Congress did not have much power. They could not raise taxes to pay for the war. In many ways, the revolution was more like 13 allied countries fighting Britain than a single country fighting Britain. Now, a great deal of the colonial fighting forces consisted of militia. Militia lacked mobility, sticking close to home, and generally lacked discipline. Standing in ranks with no cover blasting away at a highly trained British regulars takes nerves of steel. I tell you, it's something that I wouldn't want to do. But that's how they did battle back then, and that's what needed to be done. What the colonies needed, they decided, was a professional army, a continental army. So the Congress created the Continental Army and relied on states to recruit men for it. Originally, enlistment periods were for only a single year, 12-month enlistment periods, and this turned out to be kind of a problem as the war would last more than a single year. George Washington wanted 3-year enlistments, and he got them, but many men didn't want to sign up for 3 years. They wanted to sign up for 1 year. So now you have the Continental Army forming, but the men are green, which is a word for inexperienced, and there's a shortage of experienced officers. Ideally, the commanders of an army have combat experience like George Washington did from the French and Indian War. But there were few officers of that caliber to go around, so you end up having this, newly formed Continental Army filled with inexperienced officers and linemen. But trial by fire would in time form a formidable army, by the end of the war. Let's talk quickly about ladies of the Revolution. Women in combat is a controversial topic, especially today. During colonial times, men did the fighting, but women were able to serve in other ways, and even at times disguise themselves as men so that they could fight. Margaret Corbin of Pennsylvania went with her husband to the Continental Army and took his place when he fell in battle. Molly Pitcher Macaulay carried water around to wounded men on the battlefield. Deborah Sampson of Massachusetts disguised herself as a man so that she could serve as a soldier. For more information on women in the Revolution and their roles, in the Continental Army or wherever, you can click on this picture here. It takes you to a cool little website. Tell you all about it. A little supplemental material for you if you want to learn more. Shooting back real quick, that is the lesson for the day. If we go to the next page, I have instruction for you. So we don't do a lot of worksheets in my class, but we have one today. And you can complete it in pretty much any way you want, as long as I get the answers. So it's a Google Doc, and you can't copy it, you can only view it. So here's what you do. You can click on it, and it'll load up. You can make your own copy in Google Drive, and then fill it out. So like AdvANCh British here, we'll, oh, Great Navy. But remember, you have to make your own copy. Come on. Why is the formatting all messed up? There we go. It's going to be like that. Okay, you make your own copy. All you have to do is go File, Make a Copy, and then you can do your own copy. So here we would call it, whatever your name is, student, AN, advanced AN worksheet. You make a copy, it'll pop up, and then you'd fill that out. Great Navy, AdvANCh Patriot, George Washington, whatever. Home field advantage. You fill that out, and then answer the questions. Why do the colonies need a Continental Army? Militias stink, or whatever you're going to put. What were some of the problems faced by the new Continental Army? Things about enlistment periods, things like that, not having experience. Get all your information from 6.1 Part 1, and then you can either make your own copy of the Google Doc, and then fill it out on your computer, and then remember, right here is the share button. You got to share it with me. You can either put my name in there, nyund@pauks.org, or you could just make it public, and then give me the link. Just submit the link in the Google thing. That'll work. That's one way to do it. If you want, maybe you're not into all that Google Doc tomfoolery, you can just take the original, print it out, fill it out with a pen or pencil, and then scan it, and then submit that as a document. That works too, and if neither of those seem to want to work for you, you can literally just put the answers in the text box, just right. Advantages of the British, they had this, this, and this. Advantages of the Patriots, they had this, this, and this, and then answer the question. So you can do the chat box if you want. That's it. That's worth 10 points, so it might not be a bad idea to fill that out as you go through the lesson. That's all for now. If you have any questions, please let me know. I think we've gone through the worksheet pretty well on how to submit it. Have a great day, and let me know if you need me.